DC hires that were made this offseason, none bigger than Jim Knowles and Tom Allen. Let's start off with Jim Knowles. Joe, I think Penn State made the move of the offseason when it comes to what they did getting Jim Knowles away from Ohio State. The guy going back home. This is going to be monitored very closely, but your thoughts wrapping this up on what it means and the impact of Jim Knowles going to Penn State.
Yeah, we can't talk about, like we did yesterday, who deserves to be labeled as the most impactful defensive coordinator hires. We can't talk about anybody without bringing up Jim Knowles. I mean, Jim Knowles, the way that Ohio State's success was driven by how dominant they were defensively, not only this past year, but over the past couple of years, it rides off of Jim Knowles' shoulders. Jim Knowles has been so unbelievable at not only developing talent, but also capitalizing on it, knowing how to utilize and set up his guys to succeed. JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, Ohio State fans probably aren't going to agree with this. They're not going to go on to be super highly drafted edge prospects. They're just not. The fact that he was able to get the amount of production that he had out of those guys, along with Tyleik Williams and everybody on that defensive line, I think helps us fully paint this picture of what Jim Knowles is as a defensive coordinator. For Penn State to end up in this situation where they lose their guy that was fantastic this year and just immediately replacing him with the best defensive coordinator, I don't even think that's ever really even happened in the history of the sport. Like, when can we think of it that a team lost one of the best defensive coordinators to another football program and upgraded? It doesn't happen.
The only one that I can think about, but it didn't happen, though, because Saban didn't let it happen. When Ed Orgeron got hired, here's a little story time for you. Lane Kiffin accepted the job to be the OC at LSU. Signed, sealed, delivered.
I don't remember any of this.
Oh, Joe, listen to your boy. It happened. Nick Saban called Jimmy Sexton and said, get him a head coaching job anywhere in America. Do it now. That would have been the only time that I really remember something like that happening. But listen, this does not happen often. I guess Chip Kelly, right? I mean, like, that is, but it's on the other side of the ball. Defensively, you're right. I don't remember this happening. My question becomes why? Everybody wants to point at money. Maybe money does have a factor, but they were going to match it. Like, all the reports came out that Ohio State wanted to match this. Why did he leave? Oh, I wanted to go home. I'm not buying it. Okay. I think that he saw something and he wanted to be a part of something of a rebuild. He did the same thing going to Ohio State and helped rebuild the defense that quite honestly was struggling. Joe, quite frankly, Penn State defensively has not been their issue. It's not their issue. It won't continue to be their issue. Are there some things they got to get better at defensively? Sure, I'm with you. Okay, whatever. They recruit well. They develop well. And I think they'll continue to do that. The question is never going to be for me if Jim Knowles is going to be able to rebuild and revamp and help Penn State defensively. Joe, what are we talking about? 2 years ago, Manny Diaz led Penn State to the #1 total defense in the country. Like, what are we talking about here? I don't think that the success behind this is going to be solely on Jim Knowles. They got a lot that they have to replace, Abdul Carter being the biggest one. They continue to reload there, if I'm just being honest, defensively. I love the safety play that he's getting back. A lot of the guys that we saw in the playoff, he'll have back. He'll have a lot of experience that he can work with. So it's a lot to build on. I will say this. I know we want to talk about the DC side of things, but there's not a better coordinator duo, in my opinion, in the country. Jim Knowles and Andy Kotelnicki is easily the best. The question will be, how quickly can they sustain without having to do like Abdul Carter, right? What is Tyler Warren leaving the process for Penn State all around? How does that look? They made a big investment. The big thing for Penn State is what, Joe? Can they get over the hump? That is the ultimate question for them. Not just James Franklin, for them as a collective unit. Making a move like this tries to solidify that you're doing everything that you can to do that. It's a big move. I think Jim Knowles give him a year. If it doesn't look great, you got to give him the same leeway that Ohio State did and how he rebuilt it. By the way, you cannot guys would have not come. I heard this from Ohio State fans as an example. Everybody came back to finish what they started. No. Guys would not have come back if, number one, they didn't get paid, which Penn State will pay them. But number two, if they didn't love their DC.
Right. That's a very good point. Right. You don't come back unless you're excited about what you can do the upcoming year.
Exactly. And he built that. He was the one that restructured that. Can he replicate that at Penn State will be a big deal.
Yeah, part of me, and we talked about this, part of me kind of wonders, is this like an immediate hit the ground running type of a situation? Because they are losing a couple of their best players. They're losing Abdul Carter. Kevin Winston Jr. didn't play this year, but he left for the NFL. They still return Zane Durant and a lot of their other guys. Kobe King's also on the way out, who's one of their better linebackers. There are replacements that need to be had, and I think that they've recruited well enough that we're going to see a high degree of success. Does he have a guy that's as talented as Caleb Downs on that defense? No, he currently doesn't. But can he find someone?
But here's the thing, though. You might not have that elite safety like that. Joe, let's just be honest with you. The safety play, I mean, listen, Ashton Genty's probably the best back in this draft. Safeties came down and were tackling him in the open field.
Well, that's not on Genty.
No, I'm bragging about the
safety. Oh, I know. Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, it's not that he doesn't have guys that didn't return. It's not that he doesn't have pieces to build off of. He does have some pieces. Now, the number one overall pick, that's a completely different story in Abdul Carter.
Right?
I mean, again, how do you replace that?
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.